This is Fragments of Silicon, and you're listening to it.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me as always are Petty and Golics. Let us get to their news. Petty, why don't you start us off this week?
Well, my back is still hurting, which is unfortunate. I at least already have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so kind of holding out hope it's just like a pulled muscle or something and not a kidney stone, because I don't want to deal with a kidney stone. Um, Apparently I now need to help my parents look for new auto insurance because farmers jacked the rate up from, I believe it was 300 something to over $500 and didn't give us a reason why. So that's going to be my weekend. Um Aside from that, it's been relatively quiet. Um I did end up, as far as like gaming news goes, I ended up canceling my Game Pass subscription because GameStop no longer had the like $18 or like $20 monthly things, and I'm not paying $30 for Game Pass when they've not really added much new other than Fortnite, and I am like 15, 20 years too old to be giving a damn about Fortnite.
I mean,
So,
plus it's Fortnite. You can go and play it without a Game Pass subscription.
well, supposedly it's like the Battle Pass thing, which, whatever. I mean, to people who are interested in Fortnite, they would probably be interested in that, but like,
Maybe.
eh,
Like, but here's
probably,
the thing that you know, Game Pass is essentially a rental service,
yeah.
so they don't keep the skins.
If the stuff I don't remember exactly how it works. It's basically, while you're a Game Pass member, you'll get the paid Battle Pass. So, I guess the stuff you still earn off that you keep, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, again, I didn't care enough to look into it. But yeah, I'm thinking about next month looking into the PlayStation Plus. My only kind of hiccup with that is it doesn't have native remote play on Android, because I do like, like if I'm at the dentist office or whatever, you know, whipping my phone out and playing like doing some RPG grinding on that. That's probably like the only thing that I miss about Game Pass is that feature, but it's not, worth paying $30 a month for. I do also need to make a list of like the games I actually liked and see about buying them, since I'm not going to be able to play them on account of my subscription ends the 16th. So I still have a little bit of time with it, but in a perfect world, they would give me an option that didn't cost $30, but that's a gripe for an entirely different show. Um, Trying to think of what else. It's been warm enough that I've been able to at least turn my PlayStation on. so that's fun. I there are a couple games I need to get to downloading on that for reviews. I still have the codes, I just haven't put them in yet. And other than that, not really a whole lot else. So, Gullix.
Well, we got a little more snow yesterday, which was last night mostly, which was not super fun to get up and clean up, especially since my mom is away helping out with my sister with them having some sick in the house.
Mm,
Um, but luckily the plow guy did a good job, so there wasn't too much I needed to shovel. I didn't have time to do the roof raking, but it's supposed to be pretty cold, so I'll do that tomorrow probably.
mm,
Um, yeah, I still need to get myself to make a haircut appointment and an oil change appointment, but I'm going to try and do that this week, since it'll probably be a couple of weeks before
mm.
they happen anyway. Tomorrow I actually have a dentist appointment, so
Oh man.
um, none of my teeth have fallen out, so that's a good start.
Yeah.
Um, Video game wise, I've been playing the new DLC for Super Robot Wars Y and a little bit more of Pokemon Legends ZA. That is pretty much what I've been up to. So I think that's all I've got.
All right then. Well, it's my go. Let's see. Today was actually a fairly busy day, but I can't really go into it in any specific detail since, let's say it just involves sensitive family matters,
Mm.
uh, and also learning the finer workings of how a Notary Republic works.
Ooh.
I'm like, yeah, it's some serious stuff.
I can imagine.
Like, yeah. So it's gotten, well, the thing that needed to get done today got done. Like, and hopefully tomorrow the paperwork gets filed properly due to deadlines.
Mm.
Like, so aside from that, fairly quiet week. Gonna be quiet this weekend, mainly because I'm not looking after the kids.
Oh man.
Got a retreat there, so I get to not wake up early in the morning on a Saturday, which is something I can appreciate.
Yeah.
In terms of gaming, let's see. I think the main thing I've been playing is the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle. And mainly because I don't know, for some reason my previous laptop had a real problem running Capcom compilations.
I
I
think it
don't know
might
what.
have been the Unity wrapper they used for the front end on that.
Even when I went into the games, they chugged to it like they were underwater.
Yeah,
And
I think a lot of that's because there still had a Unity wrapper that kind of acted as the front end that didn't disengage even when you started playing the game.
it's possible,
It's kind of why a
but
lot of people had issue with the room thing the Sega Mega Collection had because it made older systems chug like hell.
yeah, I do remember that. Like, um, I've also been playing the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy, kind of on and off, mainly because, well, we'll get into it a little later, but there's a reason why people were, I don't know if they were joking, but calling Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy, the Dark Souls of 3D platformers. No, it's not. Dark Souls is the Dark Souls of 3D platforming.
Yeah,
Seriously, there is
you
way
can't see it right now, but my eye is twitching.
Seriously, Dark Souls had at least Dark Souls 1 had way too much platforming in it for those controls. But that's a rant for a different game. So, outside of that, I think we're good for the week. So,
Okay.
merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Mraz of Moth Atlas Games.
Hey, how's it going?
It goes well. How are you doing tonight?
Having a nice night. Thanks.
It's good to hear. Right. So, how we like to get started is we like to get to know the people behind the games, the studio, and all of that assorted business. And we begin that journey by asking this particular question: what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Professionally, I started actually teaching myself to code by making video games. In the 2017-ish, somewhere around there. I had come across, I was building one of those little those Raspberry Pi retro console emulators you can put together.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like loading RetroPie onto so I was downloading the software for that, and it came with a number of emulators, and one of them was, you've got your normal like Game Boy Advance, Sega, whatever, and one on there was called Solaris, which is not actually a console, but they had this video game engine that someone had sort of worked out this deal where they'd put the engine packaged with the OS for the emulator, and it came with these Zelda fan games on there.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. I'll poke around in there and see what these are like, and played around with them for a little bit. And the thing that struck me at the time, I was just like, oh my gosh, like someone made a video game, on their computer, and I'm playing it on my TV.
Yeah.
Like, I sort of had the conception that if you made a video game yourself, you could only play it on your computer. And I've never been a PC gamer or like, really related to that experience. But like once it got to the living room, I was like, this is crazy. I didn't know you could do that. How hard could it be? I probably just need to teach myself how to code. Seems reasonable. And so I did. And so I started making video games. So,
Well,
oh, yeah, go ahead.
I suppose the question that really does beckon is, how hard was it?
Oh, to learn to code? No,
Mhm.
not that bad. I think it's so I started teaching myself for I went at least a year just doing sort of looking at documentation and looking at other games I could find, looking into their source code and like poking around like how does this stuff work, and piecing things together in reverse. I didn't have like zero knowledge, just I'd played with RPG Maker when I was a kid, so I had that background. And but the logic of it is basically like, do you know what the idea of a variable is? And can you learn some syntax? There's a very, I guess I'd say there's a very high skill ceiling, and I'm certainly, with the never going to approach that. But I figured the first thing to do was to make my own Zelda-esque game. I wasn't super interested in making a fan game, but so I sort of started drawing some pixel art, and looking at what other games did and sort of copying how that looked and figuring out why it was broken. And sort of pieced things together for about a year, and then felt like, okay, now I have enough background that I can ask good questions and not stupid questions, and started getting involved in some communities of other developers. And people were super nice and willing to help me out and point out like, oh, you're not, here's how this concept works. And after a few years, I had put together this game, Ocean's Heart, which was the first video game I ever made. So it's basically a Zelda, very Zelda-like game. It's a top-down action game with pixel art graphics, where you play a character exploring a world full of pirates and magic. You're voyaging across an archipelago, trying to find some people that have gone missing and going through dungeons. I really wanted to focus on I love that. You know, when you're in a game and you find some little like a small offshoot path that you think might be nothing, but you go down there and then it just kind of gets bigger and bigger till you've realized you found like an entire extra dungeon or an entire new area. That kind of that is such a good feeling. So like trying to marry like that kind of feeling with things that I love in my life of going like hiking or exploring environments that I'm familiar with and my love for nature, mixing all that together with the kind of games that I love. The Game Boy Zelda games were the first among the first video games I ever played. Not the first, but they had a really formative place in my heart. So bringing all those together sort of came out as Ocean's Heart. So that was my first game. It came out in 2020 on Steam, 2021 on Switch. And since then, I've just been being like, I think I could do better, and did a number of side projects with experimenting with different things until now. This next big project that I'm working on is called Tombwater, which is another pixel art action game. Sort of is a Souls-like game combining elements of Zelda-likes and Metroidvanias and other concepts that I'm interested in, all set in the Wild West where you're fighting eldritch horrors.
So basically how the Wild West actually was.
No. That's you're trying to fight the weird West.
Yeah, it is
They
very
didn't
weird
fight
West.
Cthulhu in the plains of Oklahoma.
No, I think that was Montana, actually.
Shit.
Right. So let me see here. I suppose we should start with why a Western.
It was not a super thought through decision. I mean, I certainly, there's a lot about the aesthetic of the Wild West in, from movies and novels and all sorts of media that super fun, super appealing. I love, a lot about it. The concept of Tombwater actually came from, so I had a one of my coworkers, a guy I'm friends with at work. It was, he knew I made video games, and he said, "Hey, I'm like kind of interested in that. Like, do you think there's any, like, could we get together and like make a little game together, sort of, so I can see what it's like? Like, does that sound fun?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds super fun. Hang out with you and work on a project." And he pulled in a third coworker. So I sort of said, "Okay, let me come up with some ideas. Next, and we'll get together and sort of, sort of ideate, get in front of a whiteboard or whatever, figure out what we want." So I came to, we were getting some drinks after work, and I had like 6 or 7 different game ideas in a notes app on my phone. And among other things, one of them was, I'd watched Twin Peaks not super long before that, and was like, maybe it could be cool if you were in, like exploring a very unsettling town. Something horrible had gone wrong there. Maybe there's some eldritch horror lurking beneath the facade of a town that you're exploring. Maybe there's some kind of idea there. And a different idea that I had written down was just vampire cowboys. What can we do with that? And so we were chatting and we decided, like, maybe let's smash those two together and sort of have like cowboys, like a cowboy town where there's a lot of eldritch horror lurking underneath. That sounded super fun. So that was, sort of just, we pulled 2 ideas out of a hat, basically, and that became Tombwater.
I had a nickel for every time Twin Peaks influenced the creation of it. video game, I would actually have a lot of nickels.
Yeah, I mean, pretty,
Up to and including
pretty
a
influential
Zelda
work.
game.
Yeah, Link's Awakening, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like that whole seedy underbelly thing is a direct transposition into Link's Awakening. So, with that in mind, is Tombwater the town?
Yeah, so the game Tombwater, the premise is you're playing a gunslinger, an ex-outlaw who has gotten a letter from one of his old friends, someone he used to be in an outlaw gang with, who has said, "Hey, we've been trying to get our lives back together, maybe make a little living for ourselves. I've become the sheriff in a town called Tombwater. I think maybe there's a place for you here." And so you follow that letter, you go to the town. Um, Sheriff has gone missing. People are turning into monsters. The town is populated with horrors and cults and things like that.
So typical Western Tuesday.
And we've all been to one. And and so you pick up your steel and figure out try to figure out what happened where your old friend went.
Sounds like a simple quest. Of course, complications will probably arise.
Naturally, wouldn't be much of a gamer story without complications.
Unless you were doing a very, very short game.
It is not super short. That's actually, and that's actually somewhere where I deeply messed up. So I had said that this came from the idea of doing a short little project with a couple coworkers who were just interested in interested in what I was doing and wanted to see what it was like. Well, what happened was, after a couple weeks, the guy whose idea it was sort of like, this is a lot more work than I really want to get down into doing, which totally makes sense. It's not a reasonable thing to do as a hobby. It's so he, I think he had one open pull request into the repo that wasn't even finished and never went further than that. And then me and my friend Jake have just been carrying on since. But it was initially meant to just be like sort of a small, maybe we spend 2 or 3 months on this, you can see what the process is like. But as we got to going and sort of putting together what the world might look like, how the combat would feel, and there were just so many ideas that we kept having it with the prompt of Eldritch Horror Wild West just has so much to it that you can pull from. We were just having so much fun that and the game was coming together so well, and it was so much fun to play that sort of one thing led to another, and it was sort of like, okay, this is going to be let's spend some more time on this. Let's make this like a real thing, not just a side project or a learning project.
Friendly reminder, kids, don't play the Scope Creep video game, or the Scope Creep drinking game. You will die.
Yeah, you'll find yourself 3 or 4 years later with with a lot less time on your hands than you ever meant to.
Is that how long Tombwater's been in development?
Unfortunately, yes. It will be. It'll by the time everything's said and done and it comes out, it'll probably be about 4 years of development.
Sounds about right. Like, once again, to put simply, that's about maybe on the longer end, but usually when people talk about their first, bona fide game project, it's something they've been working on for one reason or another, like 2 to 3 years, sometimes 4 years. Very occasionally we get somebody who's been working on it like 8, 9, 10 years.
Yeah, I've heard all kinds of links for stories. Yeah, this isn't exactly my first game project. I have a pretty reasonable idea of what we're doing. Unlike, a lot of systems for streamlining things. I'm actually like, look, when you step back and look at what Tombwater sort of has become, as like the QA team is playing through, or a few other testers have played through, are they're spending 20-30 hours to get through the whole of the project, with as much just optional content and secret areas as there are, or the depths of the sort of character builds you can do. So considering that we're just working on this, when we can, after work, weekends, I think we're doing pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, and that's another reason why some of these projects can take so long. It may not be a hobby, but it's a side development thing.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that would. I'm honestly not eager to make it a full-time thing, particularly. I love the stability of my full-time job. I work as a software engineer. I think it's a lot of fun, and and that's where I met my coworker in Tombwater. But but yeah, obviously there's a huge difference between spending you know 40-ish hours just on a game and then having free time versus spending 40-ish hours at work and then trying to fit another 40 in on a second job.
Both approaches have their, let's say, pluses and minuses. But having this not be your main source of revenue, probably a good thing given the current state of the industry. Not even necessarily stability, it's just there are so many games coming out these days, and not everyone gets to be successful.
Yeah, well, certainly. I think there is also I think there's a little more nuance to that than a lot of people, a lot of the voices that I see repeating that necessarily give it. I do think when you're looking at a sort of landscape of products, if you want to, if you want to call Steam that, um, you're looking at you want to do an artistic kind of work, but you want to make that work as a business model, right? That to, if not be your main source of income, there's still like a depending on how much time you put into it, you can calculate a wage off of that, and you don't want to be making 15 cents an hour. Like I think if you're certainly, there are a lot of people that make games as a hobby, and it's these kinds of things are just not a concern for them, and shouldn't be, because why would you add that kind of stress to something that you want to just do to relax or to have fun? But there's this, I feel like I see a lot of people that are putting themselves in a weird middle place where they're talking about things, from talking to other developers at conventions or in like Discord groups or wherever you might meet them, certainly just on social media or whatever. But people will be making a game with all the sort of foresight that they would put into a hobby, but what I mean, sort of like, I'm interested in this kind of thing, I'm going to do it because I love it, I'm going to make the kind of game that I am most passionate about. um or I'm just going to do what I can, what I'm capable of, and then put it out there. But then they also subject themselves to the things of like, well, now I'm going to be concerned about like, how long should a demo be to optimize sales, or how can I communicate with streamers to build my wish lists up, all things that you only these things that you can be concerned about if you're trying to get a return on your investment, be that money or time or whatever. um but they're sort of only halfway in because they aren't making a game to do that. They're then trying to do these other actions, trying to treat the thing that they're treating like a hobby as though it is also a business. And it's a weird mix, and I don't see it working for a lot of people that I talk to. But I think the thing is, like, even though there are a lot of games, a lot of competition, even outside of that, if just people spending a lot of time on social media or watching short form video, I do think that for this comparatively small amount of people that do want to play, lower budget indie games, there are paths where you can put together something sustainable. Keep games small, keep the budget, be that time or money to create them small, but produce something that is good looking and polished and the kind of game people want to play. And you can find something that I believe you can find something that is sustainable and workable, even within the massive amount of games that are coming out.
Indeed. And so, getting back to the game itself, uh, uh, is it still just you and your associate, coworker, what have you, developing on the game,
My
or are there more
BFF, my
people
brother, my
involved?
homie. Yeah, no, yeah, it's the two of us. Yeah, so Jake Wagner is my co-conspirator and one of my closest friends on um yeah, so it's been the two of us and we do pretty much everything together. So like I mentioned at the top, it was or earlier, this did start out. I've been making games for a few years now. And he really came in, as a software developer, knowing his way around how to write code, and as a musician as well, and as a really funny and smart guy. It's a joy to work with. But not any familiarity with games or the engines or how design plays into the player experience and stuff like that. So, um, it's been a really fun time of sort of being like an extra challenge for me to be like, okay, not only how do we make this game, but how can I how can I actually explain how to make this game? And sort of we've joked a lot that he's the intern on the game, but um yeah, between the two of us, we've knocked out everything from all the art, all the music, all the writing, all the design, all the levels, all the bosses, all the side quests, the maps, and everything.
So you've locked in, as they would say.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, I guess to elaborate, locked in means you've gotten all the content sorted out, mapped out. You're done adding ideas.
Oh, in that sense, I was like, I mean, yeah, we locked in to make the game. I was locked in on making it, but it's been
I
4 years.
mean,
Yeah. So where Tombwater is now, is the game is in a very good state. We are hoping to be releasing it very soon. We actually were initially planning to release it in November. But and the game, I would say it could have been ready then, but at maybe late September, early October, sometime around then, we were just looking at what else was going on at the end of last year in terms of other games that were coming out, and um, it was going to be a big push for me to sort of hunker down, get everything finished up and polished up at that point, and we could have done it, but we decided it'll be nice to just sort of take things at a little bit more of a relaxed pace, um, delay the game a little bit. And so for the past since October, November, we've been we slowed down a little bit from what we were doing and have just been focusing on polishing everything up really nice, making squashing down, making through things, all the bugs that we can are gone, improving performance and things like that.
yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Especially if I'm guessing what it comes down to is you could have released it last year, but it would have been in a kind of a rough state.
No, no, definitely not. No, we could have released it last year. That
So
would have
more
involved more like a right, because we're doing this as a second job, right? Like a side gig kind of thing.
okay.
It's a little less of like we have a set amount of hours in the week, and it's more like, okay, I have a social life. I have friends. I want to spend time with my family. I volunteer at my church. I do a bunch of things. We absolutely could have hit that November date. And it wouldn't have been rough. It would have been probably the game it is now. But that would have involved sort of sacrifice of time of other things during that period of the year. So
I
instead of
get,
that, yeah, we
especially
sort of
since
went
we're
at a
talking the
leisurely
holiday.
pace.
We're talking
Yes.
the holidays here. Okay, I get your concerns. uh, so
Yeah, there are some other factors too, but yeah, I think I'm very happy with where the game is now. It's one of those things where I go to, I'll go into, check that I fixed a bug rate and catch myself getting distracted, being like, oh, maybe I could come up with this kind of build, or I'm actually going to fight that boss so I can get this item. All these unnecessary things just because it's a blast to play.
Mm.
that does get me wondering, do you plan on putting out a demo before the game comes out at like a Steam Next Fest or something like that?
We've had a demo out for quite a long time.
Okay, let me
Yeah.
rephrase. Do you plan to put out an updated demo?
I believe the last update we did was in November. And yeah, there should be another update coming out pretty soon. It's in the test. It's in sort of going through QA right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Regards Next Fest, you know, we haven't really given out when our release date will be yet. We're still nailing that exact bit down. But I think it's likely will be in the February Next Fest. But you know, no promises. We'll see.
It's done when it's done.
Always the best path. If you don't know and you can't promise, or there are legal reasons to not disclose the date, then don't talk about it. And on the other major consideration, have you thought about price yet?
Yeah, that's another thing that I certainly think about a lot, but it's something that we're discussing internally. Like things like I would as soon as I can share a release date or a price, we are going to. We'll make a big deal out of it when we've nailed that down and are ready to share.
And is this game going to be released for just the PC, or are there going to be iterations for the consoles?
Yeah, so we're gonna start with Steam. That's with a 2-person team. It's we kind of got to do one thing at a time to really give that one thing the attention it deserves. But
Yeah.
once Steam comes out, I would love to see this game on consoles as well.
Are you using any of the like middleware like Unity, Unreal, Game Maker to make the
Um,
porting process a little easier?
So yeah, for the if there's any other game developer nerds in the audience, we use a engine called Solaris. Um, it's a cool one. It's really small in terms of its user base and its development team. It's an open source engine that grew from one guy wanting to make a Zelda fan game himself, and sort of going overboard and making an entire engine to support the fan game that he wanted to make. And since and over the years, it's morphed from sort of supporting making a Link to the Past clone to being a much more general purpose 2D engine. Um, so I've been working with that for 8 or 9 years or so. And I know that guy. I know the rest of the development team super well. They're all lovely people. So we've been using that. Yeah, I think when it comes to console ports, it's not like Unity or Unreal where there's a big team behind the
Yeah.
engine.
Almost
It's
like a one-click button. It can be usable on a console. There's a little more involved.
yeah, yeah, from what I hear, I would be a little surprised if it was just one click on Unity too. I mean,
Well,
I
and
won't
like
speak
that's a
to it.
gross oversimplification, but it's not like you made a bespoke custom engine that
I
somebody would
didn't
need
want to
to.
call it that. That was so
Yeah,
you do. Those are your words.
yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, so yeah, there's nothing like that with a, an engine made as a hobby by people out of the goodness
Yeah.
of their heart in their free time. But Ocean's Heart also did come out on Switch, and that was the same engine.
Mm,
So I think there will be a lot of overlap and things that we can reuse, but that was a different version of the engine. It's changed since then, and there's
yeah,
still just a lot of very nitty-gritty things that are boring to get into.
right.
But I'm hopeful for Switch, but again, we'll have to see. One thing at a time.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose I've run through my questions. Petty, do you have anything more?
I think I went through mine.
All right, Galix, what about you?
Nothing really jumping out. Sorry, I was busy for some of that. I had to deal with something.
All right. Well then. So yeah, Max, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here today. I must admit, the game looks very intriguing. Yeah, certainly like nothing I've quite seen before, which certainly a good thing.
Well, thanks so much.
Indeed. So once again, the game is Tombwater. It is currently coming soon and will be ready when it's done. But you can go and wishlist it on Steam today, and also there is a demo available. So be sure to check that out today. Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion. So, this week we are talking about Crash Bandicoot. One, because the Nintendo Partner Direct was pretty mediocre last week, and Sony's first state of play isn't until tomorrow.
Yep.
So, we're kind of in between things. And also, it's another installment of Kind of Feel Old. Because Crash Bandicoot's turning 30 this year. Yes, that is your body withering away.
to
and
dust.
As well as your bone structure.
Yeah.
Like-
Well, my bones are withering for different reason.
Duly noted. But, the point is, Crash Bandicoot is old. And I'm not sure if Activision, Microsoft, what have you, have any anniversary plans. And granted, if they do, I'm not exactly sure what they would look like, because when you get down to brass tacks, Activision kind of explored all they really could in terms of Crash Bandicoot in the modern era. Because, okay, we got the Insane trilogy like a good 7-8 years ago now.
Yeah.
Once again, time passing. What are you? Like, but yeah, that was the full on at the time current gen remake of the first three games,
Yep.
aka the games that people actually love and hold dear.
Yeah, and I mean, like,
Um,
really, what else can you do? Make a photorealistic version? That would be disgusting.
No, but that's not the only thing they
Yeah, a
did.
lot of the designs in Crash Bandicoot do not play well with higher resolution than they were designed for.
Which is why they got redesigned for the Insane trilogy. But after that, Activision went and remade Crash Team Racing. It's just weirdly
I thought
that
it was a
never.
spiritual
They kind
successor,
of
not a
ruined it
remake.
with gotcha shit.
I mean, that's Activision being Activision.
Yeah.
It's also, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled is put together a celebration of not just Crash Team Racing, but the sequels. They
Right.
had, they had additional cups where, they had a season based off of Crash Nitro Kart. I don't think Crash Tag Team Racing made it in there. If only because Crash Tag Team Racing was a weird game that
Yeah.
I still don't get the point of.
There was a point.
Like, I may actually have to digress here a bit to explain Crash Tag Team Racing, because imagine, if you
I'm
will,
just imagining Mario Kart Double Dash, only Crash Team Racing.
So about
What?
that.
Yeah, so do you want to explain it to him, or should I?
Basically the whole thing with Crash Tag Team Racing is you can combine your car with other racers, if I remember correctly.
It's not just that. No,
Well, that was
that's
the
not the gimmick.
that was
That's not the gimmick.
one of the bigger gimmicks.
Right, but that's not the gimmick I'm talking about.
Oh.
I'm talking about the hub world. So,
Oh, right, yes, that.
yeah.
I
So
thought
for
we had that in the
whatever
other
reason,
Nitro Kart games.
yeah. Let me get through this.
All right.
For whatever reason, Crash Tag Team Racing, they got the idea, what if we took, the platforming stuff from, well, not Crash Bandicoot, because it's full on 3D worlds. So, like, what if we took Mario Kart 64 and mashed it with Super Mario 64?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is, you get a game with just a very awkward hub world that is pretty pointless. Because, okay, you got a 3D platformer thing connecting all the races, but here's the thing. It's not populated with anything useful or interesting. If they wanted to do that, you had to do it like Diddy Kong Racing, where that has an overworld. Hell, I think Crash Team Racing, the original, had that.
Also, Crash Bandicoot isn't known for, like, particularly open platforming segments anyway.
Right.
Well,
And
the
even
classic Crash Bandicoots, I'm looking over at Twinsanity, we'll get to you.
the thing is, Twinsanity isn't that either. It's more open than your typical Crash Bandicoot platformer.
Well,
but
that was their experiment with that.
Yeah, but the thing is, Crash Bandicoot never went full on, like Banjo-Kazooie, let's say. For better or for worse, Crash Bandicoot is very much its own style of 3D platform game. One that could be seen as kind of an evolutionary dead end in terms of the development of 3D platforming. Because, yes, I know the first 3 Crash Bandicoot games are very well beloved. How many games ripped them off?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is not a lot.
Yeah, shockingly.
Yeah, the answer is not 0, but far less than you might think, and also much more obscure. Because I think the most notable game that you could wholesale call a Crash Bandicoot clone is like Donald Duck's going quackers.
And I think there was also a Tasmanian Devil GameCube. At least I remember it on the GameCube. There might have been other systems. One that was similar.
That could have been on the PlayStation, because you might be talking about Taz Wanted, which
I
wasn't.
have the GameCube version of that, so it might have got multi-platform.
Someone really
then.
should do a genealogical analysis of Crash Bandicoot and the Tasmanian Devil.
Well, that's not his main influence. Obviously, it's there, but
No, I'm just they're both from Australia and spin attack and don't talk intelligibly generally.
Well, and I think
But
they imply that fucking Crash is near Tasmania. So there is that.
The Wampa Islands, which are located somewhere in the South Pacific, non-specifically. But we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the main influence, and that is Sonic.
Yeah.
Indeed, the code name for Crash Bandicoot 1 was Sonic's Ass Game. They literally called it that.
I mean, there are worse things you could have ripped off,
Right,
and have a spin attack. It's just in a different direction.
That's literally how they thought of it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Not just the spin attack, like the level design is like a Sonic level, except forward. I wouldn't exactly agree with that, because Crash Bandicoot's levels are very flat. There are no hills, there are no loop-to-loops. Yeah. But that makes sense, because Crash Bandicoot is less of a Sonic ripoff than so many other mascots of that time period. Like Crash Bandicoot probably has more in common with Bubsy than he does with Sonic as a character.
Yeah.
But even then, it's mainly coming down to the fact that Crash Bandicoot's not being presented as cool. Yeah. At least not in the game. Yes, I know the Sony advertisements for the first game were very, very Sega coded, let's say.
Yeah. And let's be fair, even just looking at him in game, I'm playing Crash 3 Warped here. He's a dork. He is a full contact dork.
But like I said, I think that's why Crash Bandicoot clicked with audiences in a way that not a lot of other mascots of the time did. Because he is doing something that, well, on the surface, derivative, it's like, oh, hey, look, yet another anthropomorphic animal mascot of obscure origin.
Yeah, especially in the 90s, you could literally set your watch to those coming out.
Yeah. But the key difference is, 9 times out of 10, the Sonic mascot was somebody who was trying to be edgy, cool, fitting in with the 90s. We've talked about that before.
Right.
Everyone from fucking Bubsy to Gex to
Cool Spot.
Yes. Yes and no, because Cool Spot is something from the larger 90s culture zeitgeist.
Cool Spot is its own different thing that we are way too sober to go into.
But the fucking Jersey Devil.
Oh god, that was a thing. God damn it.
Yeah.
I hate you for making me remember that.
Like I said, I could go on for quite a while just listing all of the mediocre and forgotten mascots of that time period, both in 2D and 3D platformers that wanted to be Sonic. and could not back that up due to, a whole host of reasons. A lot of it, most of the time, was probably marketing. Though sometimes they would be able to get over the hump, so to speak, because lest we forget, Bubsy did have multiple games. It just, when he got to 3D, he hit polygon ceiling hard, or Gex.
Yeah, I miss Gex 3.
He had 3 games, but some were like Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel, which is a real thing.
Rystar.
Yes. That's a good one, but let's be honest.
I mean, the thing about Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel is that it's a second-hand, because that was a spin. He started as the cooler rival enemy in Arrow the Acrobat.
Yeah, I guess technically speaking, that makes him like the world's only ripoff of Knuckles.
Yeah.
But I think I belabored the point enough. So many mascots, successful and failed, were trying to be Sonic, just wholesale, Sonic but a duck or something like that. Whereas Crash Bandicoot, okay, there are superficial similarities in that we are talking about a mammal that doesn't look anything like the creature it's based off of.
But the charm of the character is different.
Yes.
And the other characters in the setting also, like the bosses are all weird animal things instead of just being robots or whatever. Because it does help that Crash had a decent gameplay hook, even though the first game is extremely rough.
Right.
Yeah. It is also one of the first 3D platformers. Not the first on the PlayStation or anything like that, but it is a literal contemporary of Super Mario 64.
Yeah. Yeah, what year did original Crash came out?
1996.
So yeah, that was
aka 30 years ago.
Well, no, I'm trying to math out when Sonic, I guess, Jam was in development, because that would have been the closest contemporary, or Sonic Extreme. I know that never actually came. I know that didn't actually come out, but it would have been a contemporary.
Yeah, well, yeah, Sonic Extreme was supposed to come out Christmas of 96, if I'm remembering correctly. And once it got delayed, Sega just decided to cut their losses.
Right.
Which, if you actually learn the behind the scenes of Sonic Extreme, you will understand wholeheartedly.
Oh, believe me, I know.
It was a lot of losses.
Yeah. I will be bold enough to say that even if Sonic Extreme came out, it would not have saved the Saturn.
It was at least decent, but not console saving decent.
No, like there was no one game that was going to save the Sega Saturn.
Oh yeah,
from
God no.
The whole, it had dug itself in.
Oh yeah, no, they pulled the Microsoft Xbox One debacle before the Xbox One, or the PS3.
But that's getting off topic.
Yeah.
Here. Anyway, so yeah, Crash Bandicoot, he is like derivative, but fusing those deviations enough to become his own thing.
Yeah.
It's like, what if you combine Sonic with Taz from the Looney Tunes? And it's the Looney Tunes connection that I think has really bolstered Crash throughout the ages.
Yeah. Crash is very stretchy.
Mm-hmm. And squashy.
Yeah.
Though I gotta say, less so in the Insane trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually kind of a disturbing thing watching him drown, because it's like he drowns kind of realistically here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Well, even his movement, there's a lot more bounce than, say, a typical 90s platformer character.
yeah, which increased depending on the game.
Yeah.
Game, I think. Like,
there's definitely a lot more, stretchiness, especially doing some of these animations. Like, he bounces compared to a lot more things that were very rigid in the PS1 era.
right. Anyway, getting back to my original point, and that is the things Activision has done with Crash Bandicoot is we also got a proper quote unquote Crash Bandicoot 4. Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time.
Get it?
Which is not accurate. Like, okay, I get why so many people want to forget what happened after Crash 3, but it's like, no, all that happened. Crash Bandicoot had a shit ton of games in between
Yeah.
Crash Bandicoot 3 and Crash 4. Hell, they even joke about that in the trailer for the game. Like, no, nothing happened. Like,
The less you make me think of Wrath of the Titans, the happier I will fucking be.
well, I mean, that's the thing. Crash Bandicoot persisted for so long that he has different eras.
Yep.
And, it's like, okay, the radical reinvention was a failed experiment, but I get why they were trying to do something different and new, which was a break from the post PlayStation era, which that's the thing that gave us Wrath of the Cortex.
Yeah.
Which is, let's just call it the Crash Bandicoot the cover band.
Yeah.
Because the real Crash Bandicoot 4, it's like it's another Crash Bandicoot game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Traveler's Tales, they're not Naughty Dog.
Yeah. They did their best Naughty Dog impression, and it was not good.
Well, no, that wasn't the big problem here. When I say they're not, it's probably better to say that Universal Interactive on their own wasn't Sony, because the project was kind of beleaguered by very tight deadlines, which is not uncommon in the industry. It's just
if I recall, the turnaround for Crash 2 from Crash 1 was 18 months.
Possibly, I think about a year. Actually, it was about a year in between all the it was a year. It was Crash Bandicoot was a yearly series.
Yeah.
The thing is, they had a game to work from,
right?
Whereas Traveler's Tales had to not only build a completely new game, they had to build a new everything.
Yeah, Naughty Dog didn't have anything for the PS2 because they left long before then.
Yeah, they were working on Jak and Daxter.
Yeah.
So compound that with the very tight deadline, and we get the PlayStation 2 version of Wrath of the Cortex, which is very notorious for its load times.
Oh God, yes.
The game itself is fine, I guess. It's like the most play it safe product. It's like, it's Crash Bandicoot the widget, Crash Bandicoot the content. Like, it's bringing nothing new to the table. And okay, fair play for a rookie developer, untested new publisher, that kind of deal. You don't want to rock the boat too much here. It's more the lack of polish that Wrath of the Cortex had that sunk it. At least critically. Commercially, it sold well, at least on the PlayStation. I honestly don't know how well it did on the GameCube and Xbox.
I don't think it actually got an Xbox port. I don't think Xbox. I thought it didn't come till Twinsanity.
No, it got an Xbox port. Like, it's weirdly enough, the only GameCube Crash Bandicoot game is Wrath of the Cortex. Like, by all rights, Crash Twinsanity should have been a PlayStation 2 GameCube game.
Right.
Because that's how it usually worked in that time. Like, okay, usually you had PlayStation 2, Xbox stuff, except for the family-friendly stuff. Like, a lot of the Nicktoons games never released on, say, Xbox. Yeah. Because, where are the families playing? Where are the kids playing?
Well, not just Nicktoons, but like the movie tie-in games.
Right. My overall point is the family-friendly stuff, if they skip the console in that generation, is usually the Xbox.
Right.
Mainly because, the Xbox was not considered to be the family console. Microsoft and its Xbox got
the
that,
Xbox was the Doritos and Mountain Dew console.
Filled with the first-person shooters.
Yeah. Right. That you play while drinking Mountain Dew.
It was the older brother's console.
Yeah. I mean, that the meathead personification of Xbox did not start with the Xbox 360.
Right.
Is what we're trying to say. So it is a bit weird that Twinsanity showed up on that console, not the GameCube. From what I understand, there was a few reasons why that happened. GameCube versions of, by that point, Vivendi Universal Games weren't selling very well on the GameCube.
Yeah.
Which was a story for a lot of publishers.
Yeah.
Honestly. But I don't think Crash Twinsanity did particularly well on any platform. And Crash Twinsanity itself had a lot of development problems to the point where it actually comes up in the game.
Right.
Like there's quite a bit of meta commentary about the rush developments of Twinsanity, the just cavalcade of cut ideas, and even the relatively poor sales performance of Wrath of the Cortex.
Yeah, they definitely made a lot of jokes at that.
Yeah. Honestly, the highlight of that era was on the Game Boy Advance. Because was I the only one who played the Crash Bandicoot? I know
played
it was
the Crash and Spyro games, yes.
Yeah. Because once again, they were seen as fairly derivative of the console games, but context matters, because it's one thing when you just kind of wholesale copy and paste the game design from the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2 versus doing that, but to the Game Boy Advance, to the handhelds.
Because I guess spoilers.
It's a neat trick if you can pull it off.
Spoilers, it did not happen.
Well, they sort of did, because thankfully they didn't do let's do the 3D platforming thing on the Game Boy Advance. It's not like actually trying to recreate the gameplay of all of Crash Bandicoot. No, it's all side view, which Crash did quite a bit in the console games.
Right.
So it wasn't an unnatural fit or the radical reinvention that something like Spyro was. Because if you remember, the Spyro games on Game Boy Advance were isometric platformers.
Yeah, also not great.
Which is always a tricky thing to sell.
Yes, but it was the best they could do with Spyro, given that Spyro, he always occupied full-on 3D platformers. In fact, Spyro was, Sony's direct competition to, Nintendo's stable at the time. Banjo, Mario, what have you. Whereas, Crash Bandicoot still doing his own thing. So, and like I said, there is so much to this franchise, as you'd expect, because we haven't even touched upon the supporting cast. Both friend and foe.
Right.
Because, in another one of those on the surface derivative movements, who is Crash Bandicoot's arch nemesis?
Neo Cortex.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Now,
it's a mad scientist, but he's not as much into robots, and instead of being round in the middle, he's really big and square on the top.
Also, he's a lot more comedic than video game Robotnik.
Yeah.
Eggman has his moments, but yeah.
Well, the classic era,
Cortex,
he didn't really.
Yeah, Eggman, like, that's the thing. Like, Eggman's comedy potential depends on the Sonic game, but Eggman
Cortex is never really taken entirely seriously, except for like right during a final boss fight sometimes.
Right. If you want to, like, there are, the evil scientist who's taken seriously is Entropy.
Yeah, Entropy and Brio is actually portrayed as more of a threat than Cortex, honestly.
Which one is Brio?
Nitrous
The
Brio.
sniveling sidekick.
One of them.
Yeah.
He got replaced with InGen in Crash Bandicoot 2.
Jin is the one with the fucking rocket stuck in his head, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But like Entropy, he's the
start with N.
That's the joke.
Yeah, that's the joke. Because more so with the likes of Engine and, well, his full name is Dr. Nefarious Trophy. Like, he's the only one who straddles that realm. Like, he's got a full name, but he's also shortened to Entropy.
I think they all have names, but most of them are just still like I think it's Nitrous Gin or something.
Maybe, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Like, I don't think it's nitrous. It's because they use that name for Nitrous Oxide, who is the main villain of Crash Team Racing.
Right.
So,
I don't have my Crash manuals in front of me at the moment to look and see. Because yes, I have all of the PS1 Crash games, because of course I do.
Yeah.
A Sonic fan who also doesn't like Crash. I mean, you know.
Yeah, and on the heroes.
There's a wiki for that.
Yeah.
Of course there is.
Nitrous Brio. I guess Jin doesn't have one.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was getting at. Engine is just, the N doesn't stand for anything. Like, he's just Dr. Engine.
Which is a shame. It would be really easy to do that.
Obviously. And of course, there's the lost N. Yeah, you're not going to remember Entrance.
What game was
that from?
Crash Bandicoot 2 Entrance for the Game Boy Advance.
Oh, fuck.
Like, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one because he gets he's named in the game, but he's not the starring villain. It's actually, like, it's a really weird one because it's Dr. Entropy as the main scientist villain, but he's working under Aku Aku. And in the Nitrous Brio position, let's say, we got this Entrance character who
Who
hypnotizes
seems to
all.
be a small purple egg-like alien.
Yeah. And he goes and brain waves Crash's friends into becoming hypnotized enemies, i.e., the bosses that you fight.
Mm-hmm.
And
Uh-huh.
Fake Crash makes an appearance as well, who is, by the way, based off of a bug that happened in the first Crash Bandicoot game, I want to say.
Which Crash?
Fake Crash.
Oh, Fake Crash.
Yeah. You know, the Crash with the fucking eyebrow, the unibrow.
Mm. Yeah, I don't remember that one off the top of my head.
Just look it up on the wiki.
Fair.
And also that's by the point where we had Coco.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, first
who
we had,
is
was it Trixie?
Tanya.
Tanya, that's right.
Yeah, Tanya, who was for the longest time the
Know
footnote.
why.
Whatever. She was basically the footnote of Crash Bandicoot's roster, mainly because she was the driving force of the first game, and the subject of a lot of let's say conspiracy theories, because it's like, why does she look like that?
Yeah,
What's the key thing?
She was your damsel in distress that, legally required in the mid-90s.
Well, it's more, why does she look like, a human?
Yeah.
Like, she's fully anthropomorphized.
It's almost like these people have never played an MMO. Oh, wait, it was like 1996.
Yeah.
Yes.
MMOs never played them.
But still, it's a joke. It's a joke about like the design in World of Warcraft where, yeah.
But yeah, there's also the joke of many kids had an awakening that year.
Though once again, what I'm getting at is the in-game explanation for why is Tanya looking, why is she wearing clothes? Why does she look basically like a human girl, except vaguely, let's say, Bandicootish?
Yeah.
Versus, Crash Bandicoot.
Might as well be a dog nose.
Yes. That kind of deal. I mean, the obvious answer is because, this was made by men who were horny.
Yeah. Also, see female dog noses. Does Peg from Goof Troop look like the same species as Pete? Really? I don't think so.
Well, technically speaking, Peg is a dog. Pete is a cat.
I know, they're close enough, though. Also, I think they go back and I understand like originally he was, but I definitely think he's been treated as like a short-eared dog sometimes.
Possible,
But yeah, I know. Anyway, okay. Do Peg and Goofy look like the same species?
No, and that's not even getting into the classic Goofy Pluto dichotomy.
Yeah.
Right. Although they actually have fairly similar faces, which actually makes it weirder.
Yeah, that makes it worse.
Anyway, we're to shift things back on focus. And then, with Crash Bandicoot 2, we get Coco, who's definitely more anthropomorphized than Crash, but once again,
she looks closer to Crash than Tanya looks to Crash.
A bit, yeah.
Yeah.
She does still wear clothes, but at this point, it should be manifestly clear that the real question is, why doesn't Crash wear clothes? And it's because that's the kind of guy he is.
Well, he's wearing shorts and shoes.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
rephrase that. Why doesn't Crash wear a shirt? Because even if he was a fully human guy, he'd be the kind of guy who hangs out, lazing around with no shirt on most of the time.
Yeah.
Right. They're going for the beach bum aesthetic.
Yeah,
Like,
which is
it
hilarious because
makes
he
more
can't swim.
it makes more sense than Donald Duck not wearing pants.
Beach bums don't need to swim; they just hang out at the beach.
Yes. Like, and indeed, Crash Bandicoot can't swim.
Yeah.
At least not in the first game.
But that's
know.
just In
He's
later
never
games,
had the real
his
ability to like swim outside of the scuba diving sections in 3.
yeah, but
It's
that's
still
different than like having ultra super drowning powers.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And in fairness, the rivers in Crash Bandicoot's Wampa Islands and elsewhere are dangerous, filled with piranhas and other things.
They're in Australia.
Or at least
Hmm.
Australia adjacent, yes.
Yes.
Thematically Australia.
Legally
And
not
who remember?
Australia.
Yeah, and who remembers Crunch Bandicoot?
He's the one that looks like he was made by someone who is really bad at pin the facial features on the
I thought that was
thing, right?
steroided up Crash, basically.
That
Yes.
too, but his facial features are also just he's strong mad but Crash Bandicoot.
Mm-hmm.
He's what would later become Tiny.
No, Tiny the Tiger was from
I
Crash
think
3.
Tiny means that later he would get shrunk.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah,
see
We know
Crunch
Tiny
anymore.
the Tiger is a different character.
Tiny basically took the design language of Crunch.
Oh,
Other
we
way
didn't have-
around.
Yeah,
Like, Crunch is from Wrath of the Cortex.
right.
And shockingly sticks around for the rest of the Universal Vivinde run. Like, I guess on the flip
Universal
side,
Century.
His main purpose was we hadn't quite decided on our evil counterpart of Crash yet.
yeah. And they just kind of give that up after Wrath of the Cortex. He just, he becomes Crash's friend and doesn't do a whole lot.
And then he theoretically fucks off to the countryside somewhere.
Yeah. No, probably the greatest contribution that the Universal era added to the Crash, well, not mythos, but character roster was Nina Cortex.
Oh, right.
Because it's
Neo's
always funny
niece?
to give a mad scientist a daughter, whether she be beautiful or a tiny little brat or what.
Daughter or niece? I don't remember. It's been a while.
I think she might be his niece, but same idea either way.
They actually make a joke about that. My niece, daughter, I don't think we ever cleared that up. Neo Cortex actually says that in Twinsanity. So, but yeah. She's probably the one character who really benefited from the Radical era of redesigns.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could probably keep going for a fairly long time, but we are getting close to the top of the hour, so we should probably wrap up here because we have a new episode of MSP to prepare for.
Oh, man.
Yeah. All right, so that means coming up on the week ahead, on Friday, February 13th, we do not have a Daylight interview program, but we do have a multiplayer mayhem plan, as we are going to be showcasing the platform fighter Elemental Brawl. And coming up on the Sunday reviews, we'll be having reviews of Air Hairs, Kickin' Hell, Dark Quest 4, and, well, Elemental Brawl.
Funny how that works.
Indeed. So look forward to that, and until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.